welcome to Ausbiz Capital Investor Connect. Today I'm joined by Brad O'Connor, CEO of Cogstate Limited. Great to have you on Ausbiz, Brad. Okay, so let's discuss Cogstate Limited and how are you speeding up healthcare adoption of your cognitive tools, and what revenue share do you see from this in 3 years?
Yeah, so we're doing working in two different markets really. So working in clinical drug trials where we work in central nervous system diseases. And what we're seeking to do there really is we've got a business that's really well set up for both revenue growth and for profitable growth. And what we're seeking to do is really add scale to that. So one of the most important ways we're doing that is that we're partnering with other companies working in that clinical trial space. We're looking to push into central nervous system diseases. So that area of central nervous system diseases is really, has been identified as a growth area in terms of R&D research generally. And some predictions have it overtaking or meeting oncology as the largest area of R&D research within the next 10 years. So as we think about how do we grow our revenue over the next 3 years, it's really about adding that scale to our business and working across a much greater market share in central nervous system diseases. So both in Alzheimer's disease, where we're really dominant, but also in areas like mood and psychiatric disorders, rare diseases and pediatric indications, where we see a lot of focus on the measurement of brain health being really critical to that. And then the other aspect where we really see substantial growth is the ability to give digital tools to people in their own home to understand their own brain health and understand whether it is normal, both compared to themselves and compared to a normative database. So am I normal? Is my brain functioning in the right way? And as we see new therapies come onto the market, we see the opportunity for growth in that area. Of really, even within that 3-year time period of sort of 3 and 5x on top of what we're doing now.
So Cogstate's first half earnings was driven by Alzheimer's disease trials growth. You say that Alzheimer's represents generational opportunity. Is there any other company competing in this market, and what's your moat?
Yeah, so we do have competitors in this market. We really two major competitors though in this market, both based out of the US and both PE owned enterprises that have a larger offering than Cogstate, but one section of that really competes with us. So there's a couple of things that distinguish Cogstate from those competitors. The first is our digital assessment. So we have proprietary digital computer assessments that we've developed ourselves and that we've validated, that we've shown are really sensitive to change in brain health, whether that be a change caused by a new therapy or a change caused by a neurological disease or some other impact to the brain. So we have those digital assessments, which differentiates ourselves, it differentiates us from our competitors. And then the other aspect is that our ability to partner with other providers in this space, because our offering is more niche, we don't compete with these companies we're looking to partner with, whereas our competitors offer a more wide-ranging service and therefore aren't in a position to partner with those other organisations. So we think those two aspects really gives us a competitive advantage and allows us to partner with a whole range of other players in the space, giving us access to a broader range of opportunities into the future.
And your major shareholders include the Dolby family, Meyer family, Australian Ethical Investment. Do you expect this support to continue?
Yeah, so both the Meyer family and the Dolby family are long-term supporters of Cogstate. Martin Meyer, in fact, invested the first angel capital into the business in the late 90s. So really long-term investors. they were attracted to Cogstate with the idea of this generational opportunity of an aging population and increasing incidence of Alzheimer's disease, and the opportunity for the first ever treatments of that disease, which require accurate assessment and early identification of changes in brain health. So they're really long-term committed investors. And then from a more institutional investors, people like Australian Ethical Investment and Anacacia Capital have proven to be long-term supporters of Cogstate. They've both been on our register for more than 5 years, and have been significant and consistent supporters of our business.
And what benefit has Dr. Casey Sink brought to the company since you appointed her as Chief Medical Officer in October?
Yeah, so really important and I think exciting addition to our team. So it's the first time we've had an actual MD as part of our executive team. So Casey's a geriatrician by training. She studied and worked at Wake Forest School of Medicine before joining Roche, had over 7 years at Roche Pharmaceuticals, leading Alzheimer's disease clinical trial programs there. She also continues to see patients on a volunteer basis. And she's a current prescriber of the new Alzheimer's therapies. And so within that context, we're bringing a really different skill set to Cogstate, someone who sat in the chair of, that our customers sit in and understand the challenges that they face, that understand both the opportunities and the challenges with respect to patient populations, and then is able to think about the services and the technology that Cogstate offers and how we can best position that for our customers. And so far, we've found that our customers are really appreciating having that depth of knowledge that we can present to them, and again, really differentiates us from our competitors in terms of that scientific strength.
And what is the funding environment like for biotechs now, and how do you see this evolving through the medium term, given the uncertainties at the moment?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So through the US, we've certainly seen a pickup in biotech funding over the last, say, 12, 18 months. Certainly in that sort of 21, 22 period, we saw a pullback in biotech funding. And we've seen that accelerate over that period of time. I think it's going to be really interesting to see what happens in terms of access to capital in the United States, say over the next 12 months. A lot of activity obviously at the moment in terms of the US market generally, with what's happening in terms of the trade situation there, and what and questions about what that will mean in terms of economic activity in the United States. Some talk of recession, and obviously there's a flow on from those recessionary talk to questions like access to capital. I think what's interesting about what we see at the moment is that over the last couple of years, as I mentioned, those biotechs have progressed a number of their programs in those central nervous system disease space. And so I think the interesting question is going to be, if we do see a slowdown in biotech funding, what's going to be the reaction from pharmaceutical companies in terms of looking to in-license activities? And really from a Cogstate perspective, that's where the opportunity gets interesting. Most of our customers are in fact large pharma companies who aren't really as impacted by that access to capital, but they are impacted by access to in-licensed programs. And so perversely, you may see, if there's a slowdown in biotech funding, that actually accelerates Cogstate's business, because it might accelerate in-licensing activity by pharma companies, which could potentially help Cogstate through the medium term.